Hi, welcome to DiscoveryQuests. I hope you all are doing great today. These historical mysteries continue to intrigue us, don't they? From the unexplained death of Amy Robsart to the disappearance of the Amber Room, and from the baffling case of Kaspar Hauser to the unsolved massacre at Sandby Borg, each of these stories leaves us with more questions than answers. Some of these mysteries, like the fate of Cleopatra's tomb or the purpose of the Erdstall tunnels, may never be fully understood. Others, like the death of Meriwether Lewis or the identity of Legless Jerome, may continue to spark debate and speculation. Despite the passage of time, these enigmas remain fascinating, and their allure only grows stronger as we continue to ponder their possible explanations. Who knows what secrets might still be uncovered and what new theories might emerge to shed light on these enduring mysteries? Number 12. Who was Legless Jerome of Baie, Sainte-Marie? On September 8, 1863, a mysterious man washed up on the shores of Sandy Cove in Nova Scotia on the coast of the Bay of Fundy. He was remarkably still alive, but both legs had been amputated above the knee and he could not speak. Acadian families took the man in until his passing in 1912, and the Nova Scotia government provided for his needs. His tombstone simply reads Jerome, the name he supposedly uttered among his occasional grunts throughout his lifetime. Some people believe he was an Italian aristocrat who was tortured before being released, and that he kept silent to avoid further punishment. Others claimed he was a native of Ireland who had migrated to the US to avoid his family, or that he had suffered debilitating injuries working as a lumberjack. Jerome took his secrets to his grave, and the mystery only evolved from there. While a whirlwind of hypotheses and wild tales of the man have been concocted over the years, who he was, what happened to him, and how he was found upon the beach shores remains a mystery. Number 11. Who committed the Sandby Borg massacre? In 2010, archaeologists came across an abundance of treasure concealed within Sandby Borg on the coast of Sweden. They discovered valuables including jewelry, bells, and Roman coins, which led them to continue excavating in the following years until they came across a disturbing scene. Buried with the treasure troves were the 1,500-year-old corpses of 26 males, ranging in age from newborn to elderly. The lack of wounds on their forearms suggested the men were entirely unprepared for the attack and unable to defend themselves. Additionally, many showed apparent signs of being slaughtered from behind. Because none had been properly buried or given any funeral rites, experts believed the people were left exactly as they fell. The massacre occurred during a period known as the Migration, as the Roman Empire collapsed and the Huns invaded Roman lands. However, while the inhabitants of the Iron Age Ring Fort traded with the Roman Empire, the civilization was never under Roman rule. The jewelry left behind suggests that women also lived within the fort's confines, but their fates are still unknown. Because the community's treasures remained untouched, archaeologists believe the attack was a demonstration of power and control. Number 10. What happened to the Amber Room? The Amber Room of Russia was once considered the eighth wonder of the world. Then it disappeared after Nazi forces stole it during World War II. The majestic room, made of amber walls worth the equivalent of $142 million today, was a gift to Peter the Great from the King of Prussia, Frederick William I, in 1716. During its time with Russian royalty, the room served as a meditative space for Tsarina Elizabeth, a social space for Catherine the Great, and Alexander II's trophy room. As Adolf Hitler launched Operation Barbarossa in June 1941, Russian palace curators and officials hastily worked to remove the valuable amber from the wondrous walls. As it began to crumble, they recognized that the only option was to disguise the amber with a thin layer of wallpaper and hope it fooled the marauders. German soldiers recognized the room immediately. Within 36 hours, they had disassembled it and shipped the amber pieces to the Königsberg Castle Museum in Germany, where it remained on display for 2 years. As the war's end approached, museum director Alfred Rode realized the room was in danger and ordered it packed away. The following August, bombs rained down on the city, destroying the Castle Museum and its contents. Number 9. Who were the Green Children of Woolpit? Around 1150, 2 children with green-tinted skin arrived in the English town of Woolpit, acting very strangely, speaking gibberish, and having an appetite only for green beans. Sir Richard de Caen took the odd duo in and cared for them. Over time, the brother and sister started eating a wider variety of foods and lost their green pallor. Most tellings of the tale say the boy passed a short time later from an unknown illness, while a few say he lived for several years. The girl, at least, eventually learned English and described the series of events that led to her and her brother's discovery in Woolpit. After she recounted that they had fallen into a trance in their father's field and suddenly awakened near Sir Richard's land, she described their home as an underground community unexposed to light. The sun does not rise upon our countrymen. Our land is little cheered by its beams. We are contented with that twilight, which among you precedes the sunrise or follows the sunset. Moreover, a certain luminous country is seen, not far distant from ours, and divided from it by a very considerable river. Number 8. No one has ever found Cleopatra's tomb. According to ancient texts, Cleopatra ended her life in 30 BCE by allowing a poisonous snake, an asp, to bite her after her capture by Octavian near the end of the Battle of Actium. While the texts also claimed she was placed in a tomb with her lover, Mark Antony, modern scholars and archaeologists have been unsuccessful in locating the mausoleum. Archaeologists believed they were on the verge of discovering the tomb at a site called Tap Osiris Magna, around 30 miles west of Alexandria. While they have unearthed numerous artifacts that date back to Cleopatra's lifetime over the last 15 years, the last Egyptian queen's body remains missing. Former Egyptian Minister of the State for Antiquities, Zahi Hawass, believes the tomb will never be discovered. Since Cleopatra's reign more than 2,000 years ago, coastal erosion has completely submerged her palace. He suspects her tomb was nearby and met a similar fate. Other scholars think it might possibly be buried somewhere beneath the modern architectural structures of Alexandria. Number 7. What was the sweating sickness? As it swept through Europe multiple times from 1485 through 1551, the sweating sickness epidemic caused panicked hysteria in royalty and peasant classes alike. To this day, no one knows what the mysterious illness was or where it came from. But modern medical professionals suspect it may have been some type of hantavirus or insect-borne parvovirus. Whatever it was, historians think the mercenaries King Henry VII hired to end the War of the Roses may have brought the contagion into England with them. The symptoms seemed to come out of nowhere and progressed rapidly. Initially, people generally experienced anxiety, giddiness, chills and fever, headaches and prostration. Soon after came extreme sweating, severe headaches, a rapid pulse, and delirium. If someone survived for at least 24 hours, they usually survived, but the mortality rate was high, from 30% to 50%. Unlike the Black Death, no visible signs on an ill person's skin were present, making the illness even more terrifying. Cases seemed to surge after significant rainfall, but also sprung up randomly and without warning. Henry VIII was so frightened by the thought of catching the malady that he slept in a different bed every night in the summer of 1528. No 6. No one knows the purpose of the Erdstall tunnels. Some 2,000 passageways scattered throughout Central Europe have perplexed researchers. Called Erdstall tunnels, equivalent to earth stables or mining tunnels in German, they are incredibly compact. Most only measure around 2 feet high and span an area approximately 82 feet long. There's a single point for both entry and exit, and narrow passageways called Schlupfe, slip-outs, cause would-be explorers to squeeze themselves through very confined spaces. Those without claustrophobia can sit in the dark on crudely shaped benches found in some of the earthly caves. Despite archaeological efforts, no tools or any other artifacts have surfaced in any of the passageways, making the strange structures almost impossible to date. Still, researchers believe they could hark back to the 12th century. Some researchers suggest the tunnels were likely used by farmers seeking safety from hostile tribes passing through, and that the slip-outs acted as bubbles to allow more oxygen to flow through the tight confines. However, the fact that the mysterious passageways only have one entrance and exit makes them incredibly dangerous as a point of refuge. Number 5. Did Lord Dudley have his wife slain so he could marry Queen Elizabeth I? As the rumoured lover of Queen Elizabeth I, Lord Robert Dudley often spent time away from his wife, Amy Robsart, visiting the Queen's palace. Such was the occasion when, on September 8, 1560, Robsart sent the house staff out for the day, leaving herself alone. When the household servants returned, they found her deceased at the bottom of the home's stairwell, suffering from a broken neck. Rumours began circulating almost immediately, as some believed Dudley had his wife killed so he could be free to marry the Queen. He ordered an extensive post-mortem examination, but also suspiciously neglected to attend Robsart's funeral. Furthermore, a Spanish ambassador named de Quadra claimed he had overheard Dudley discussing how he would find himself in a different position within the year. De Quadra also asserted that Robsart had been poisoned. The cause of Robsart's demise remains a mystery. Many doubt that an adult would willingly throw themselves downstairs in such a way that they broke their neck. Although it's an inconvenient, not to mention improbable, method of killing, an assassin would most likely choose an alternative method to carry out orders. Number 4. Who stole the Irish crown jewels? A gift in 1831 from King William IV for the use of the Lord Lieutenant of Ireland, the Irish crown jewels comprised 394 precious gemstones directly from the English crown's collection. Worth more than $5 million today, they sat in a bank vault before being moved to a safe in Dublin Castle's Bedford Tower in 1903. Because the safe proved too large to fit through the doorway, officials regrettably chose to leave the jewels in the castle's library under the care of the Ulster King of Arms, Sir Arthur Vickers. While trusted, he was a careless man who regularly lost the keys to the safe, as he showed the collection off whenever he pleased. One night, while Vickers was intoxicated during a party, Lord Haddon, son of Joseph Gordon Campbell, Earl of Aberdeen, managed to grab the keys and steal the jewels as a prank. Haddon mailed them back to their rightful place in the library, but no further actions were taken to ensure the collection was better protected. Meanwhile, the library saw a constant flow of visitors and served as Vickers' waiting room. Number 3. Teenager Kaspar Hauser appeared out of nowhere. In 1828 and claimed to have lived in a dark cell. Teenage Kaspar Hauser first mysteriously appeared in 1828 in what is now Nuremberg, Germany, with only the shabby clothes he was wearing and 2 letters. One dated 1812, seemingly from his mother who abandoned him, and another from a labourer who had raised him but could no longer keep the boy in his care. Unable to write anything but his name, Hauser claimed he had been locked in a dark room for most of his life, only given necessities to survive by strangers. Miraculously, he learned to read and write within the year, astonishing those who knew of his past. His story spread quickly, and he rose to celebrity status as playwrights documented his tale through theatrical interpretations, and hundreds of books and pamphlets were published throughout Europe. Sadly, Hauser's end is also shrouded in mystery. After numerous failed assassination attempts, someone took his life just 5 years after he arrived in the town square. Many people believed he was royalty, who had a claim to a distant throne, so he was cast away and finally slain to ensure he was no longer a threat. Number 2. Was Joan of Arc's companion history's first serial killer? As a soldier, Breton nobleman Gilles de Rais fought as an assigned guard alongside Joan of Arc in numerous major battles. As one of the wealthiest men in Western France, de Rais retired to his home after Joan's May 1431 execution, where he lived a lavish lifestyle. The former soldier commissioned literature and music, built a chapel complete with a boys' choir, hired numerous servants, and luxuriously furnished his living space. However, he was quickly losing funds. Desperate to maintain his extravagant living arrangements, he sold off his family lands and hired sorcerers in hopes of summoning the resources to keep his castles and obtain his salvation. In the final years of the 100 Years' War, many boys with ties to de Rais and his servants went missing. Because families of the era regularly sent their male children off to work, most wouldn't have questioned where their boys were or how they were faring. Eventually, the massive amounts of rumours led to de Rais being placed on trial, where, under the threat of torture, the former soldier confessed that his servants had brought him many children to be ritualistically tortured. Number 1. Was famed explorer Meriwether Lewis's ending suicide or murder? While on his famous 1804 to 1806 expedition west with William Clark, Meriwether Lewis experienced numerous adventures and became famous for his heroic endeavours. Although he was appointed governor of the newly acquired Louisiana Territory upon his return, the explorer found adapting to everyday life quite difficult. Lewis's travels were well documented, but his journals still hadn't entered the publication process 3 years after he returned. He found governing a difficult occupation, making more enemies than friends. Additionally, the US government was beginning to question some of the expenditures along the famous route, leading the broke explorer to believe he may have to pay for his travels out of pocket. When news spread that Lewis had passed in October 1809 while staying at Grinder's Stand, a tavern inn in Tennessee, all signs pointed to the grieved explorer's suicide. Priscilla Grinder, the only witness of the event, claimed she heard 2 gunshots before Lewis cried for help. Apparently afraid of the possible danger, she did not intervene. When servants entered Lewis's room the following morning, they claimed he had suffered 2 bullet wounds to the abdomen and was in the process of carving into himself with a razor blade from head to toe. He perished shortly after. Lewis's troubles were well known, as he had made an attempt on his life previously while travelling to Washington, D.C. However, because Grinder was the only witness, some historians argue it's possible that Lewis was assassinated by Grinder's husband or a group of bandits. Epidemiologist Reimert Thorolf Ravenholt posits that an ailment may have been the true culprit: syphilis. Lewis's increasingly erratic behaviour in the months leading to his passing, his journal entries expressing sudden interest in venereal disease during his travels, and post-mortem evidence of syphilis and mercury used to treat the infection led Ravenholt to his hypothesis. That's it for today. We will meet with another interesting topic very soon.